Welcome back, everybody. Here we are in week 2 of the playoffs. Last week was kind of a bizarro week. You had a lot of teams that should have been, winning by big margins that just kind of scraped by. It was just a crazy, crazy week of teams that shouldn't have had a prayer who actually made it interesting. But looking at 7A here, we got Auburn going into McGill Tulane. This is going to be a fantastic game. Um, I think a lot of people are going to pick McGill on this one, but I'm kind of leaning towards Auburn. I like the defense. I got a feeling that they're going to win this ball game. Looking on here, we have Lee Montgomery going into the number 1 Central Phoenix City Red Devils. This game was actually played a few weeks ago, and Central Phoenix City won 52-30. So there's a lot of confidence there. They know this team, and I expect more of the same. Central Phoenix City to roll in this one. Another rematch, Mountain Brook going into Thompson. This game was 40-13, I believe, somewhere toward the mid part of the season, and I expect nothing different. The Warriors should roll. Tagliova will probably have a monster game, and Mountain Brook will be put out in that one. We got Hoover going into Hewitt Trustful. This is a dangerous game for Hoover. They've kind of had their issues throughout the weeks, not very consistent. If this is one of their off weeks, they could go home. Overall, though, Paul Tyson would have to play a great, great game, and I just don't see him in this kind of moment with this kind of opportunity for the Bucks. Defensively, they'll find a way and win this game. I do believe. Looking on, we got 6A Hillcrest Tuscaloosa going into Saraland. Saraland, I would imagine, would be favored in this thing, but I actually like Hillcrest Tuscaloosa to win it in a close one. Looking on, we have Park Crossing going in Opelika. A lot of people will pick Opelika in this one, but I kind of like Park Crossing to get the win. We got Wetumpka going into Carver Montgomery. Look for Wetumpka to win, probably in a blowout. Carver Montgomery's good, but Wetumpka's really good. Looking on, we have Sidney Lanier going into Spanish Fort. This is Spanish Fort's time of year. They know this situation like the back of their hand, and I believe that will be a huge factor. As Sidney Lanier, on the other hand, has struggled over the last probably 4 to 5 years. So look for the Toros to have just a little bit too much experience for them and get the win also. Looking on, we have Austin going in Shades Valley. This is one of those games. A lot of people are going to overlook this. They're going to just automatically think that Austin's going to roll in this thing. But I'm telling you, keep an eye on the Mounties of Shades Valley. They're a sneaky little team, and if Austin's not paying attention, they could get them. Looking on, we have Ramsey going into Pinson Valley. This is another rematch of, I believe, week 2, possibly week 3. Ramsey, of course, trying to defend their state championship, but I believe it comes to an end as Bo Nix and company they're just hungry as they can be to take that crown, and I believe they'll do it again. I believe it was 35-14 the first time around, and expect something similar also in this one. Looking on, we have Muscle Shoals going in Oxford. Muscle Shoals had big aspirations, but have struggled at points in this season. Look for Oxford defense to be way too much, and this is going to be a low-scoring game because both of these teams have fantastic defenses. But I do like Oxford to go ahead and get the win in that one. I got Clay Chalkville going into Homewood. Homewood coming off just a scared. Just scare you to death kind of week last week as they just snuck by Fort Payne to get on to the second round. But this is going to be a great matchup. Clay Chalkville, really an offensive team. Homewood's sort of the same mold, maybe not quite as much, a little more balanced. Um, but looking at this, I would have to lean just a little bit towards Homewood to kind of bounce back. I think they, last week was kind of a wake up call. Look for them to be a lot sharper than that and go ahead and get the win in this one. Looking on, we have Calera going into Beauregard. A lot of people will also pick Calera in this one, but I'm kind of have to lean towards the runner up last year, Beauregard, just to kind of once again, that experience factor, we'll say that will be just the little bit of edge that they need to get by in this one. St. Paul going into Carroll. Carroll's had a fantastic year, kind of just a very exciting year for them. They hadn't been very good in quite a while, and just have really rode the wave this year. But St. Paul's, they've been here, they've done that, and bought a T-shirt, and expect them to just dominate in this game, as they always do in the playoffs, and just basically expose this Cinderella Carroll team. Looking on, we got Central Clay County going into Demopolis. Central Clay County always tough, but look for Demopolis to have just a little bit too much for them and sneak by them. Looking on, we have Eufaula going into Viger. Eufaula, another really explosive team offensively, but Viger has just hit a different gear in the second half of this season. So just look for that to continue in this one and possibly blowout fashion. Looking on, we have May Jemison going into St. Clair County. St. Clair County kind of in that same boat as Homewood. Um, they got down early, but they were able to put it back together in the second half and come back and steal one from Gunnersville. We picked them to get by them, but not quite in that fashion. But a win's a win at this point. May Jemison has had a fantastic year. I believe 10-1, if I'm not mistaken. Um, they're running the option, to my understanding. Uh, just really playing some old school ball. Went from a spread offense to an option offense, which is a huge change. But it's worked for them, and they've been able to control the ball. As to where in the past they've had a high octane offense, but they haven't been able to consistently control the ball. But with this option offense, they've been able to do that, so that's helped the defense as well. Um, be a really good game, but I kind of like May Jemison to go ahead and sneak by them and get the win in that one. Winona going into Mortimer Jordan. This is the kind of game you would expect to be in the third, possibly even in the fourth round. These two teams are just great, basically. Winona coming off I believe, North final appearance last year. I believe lost to Ramsey. So I mean, they're looking to get back there and actually get to Tuscaloosa. But Mortimer Jordan kind of in that same boat. Last time the finals were in Tuscaloosa 2 years ago, Mortimer Jordan made it to the final. So they're kind of in that same train of thought. As we said, this is not your typical round two matchup, but this is going to be a great game. But I like Mortimer Jordan. I think their defense is just a little bit better, and I like them to go ahead and sneak by and move on. Looking at Brooks going in Etowah, this is one of those games where I think talent for talent, Etowah is probably better, but Etowah has struggled over the last 5 years in the playoffs. They always find a way to lay an egg and underachieve. And for that fact, I'm going to go with Brooks to go ahead and get the win in that one. But don't be surprised if Etowah doesn't actually play like they can and sneak into the third round. Looking on, we got Briarwood going into Lee Huntsville. Lee Huntsville has had a great year, but Briarwood's too strong. I like them to roll in that one. Looking on the 4A, you got Tallahassee going into Bibb County. Both these teams at times have been, I believe, top 5 teams. So both have just won a lot of games. So it's a great matchup, but I think a lot of people will pick Bibb County, but I'm going to have to lean just a little bit toward Tallahassee. I like their offense. I think they'll be just a little too much for them and sneak on by. You got UMS Wright going to Catholic Montgomery. UMS Wright, the old veteran, they know the playoffs. Expect them to use that to their advantage and be just a little too much for Catholic Montgomery in possible blowout fashion. Looking on, we got WS Neal, who pulled the upset last week, knocking off Mumford, taking on Alabama Christian. I actually like WS Neal to pull off another upset and sneak into the third round. Looking on, we got St. James going into Andalusia. St. James, great year, but it's going to run out. Andalusia is way too strong. Could possibly be a blowout in that one. This is a game that I've looked at from a lot of angles. I really want to pick the underdog, but you look at the body of work, and it's hard to do that. And it's one of those you could pick it one way or the other by the days of the week for the most part, and that's Hopes Bluff going into Rogers. Or excuse me, actually that's incorrect. That's Rogers going into Hopes Bluff. Rogers had a great year. The Pirates just, if I'm not mistaken, are undefeated. I believe finished number two in the rankings. And Hopes Bluff, on the other hand, they're trying to get back to the North Final and move on forward. And they actually avenged that loss from last year against Madison Academy last week by going in there on the road as the underdog and getting the win 12-10. We picked it for them to actually upset them last week, but in this one, as much as I would like to see the experience take hold and Landon Johnson play a great game, Darian Meads play a great game, and for them to get by, I think Rogers' defense is going to be just a little too much and get them moved on to the third round. You got Jacksonville going to Fayette County. This is another one I've kind of tossed and turned with. Uh, Jacksonville has just hit a different gear after starting out 0-3. It started with the upset of Hopes Bluff, and it just seems like it's kind of snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and they've just been on a roll. And then you got Fayette County on the other hand; they've had a really good year as well. And but I kind of want to pick uh, Jacksonville just for the hotness factor, but I think Fayette County might be just a little too much for them and sneak by them in this one just because it's at Fayette County. Looking on, we got Wilson going in Cherokee County. Cherokee County kind of stumbled into the second round by some miracle of sorts. Not the fact that they upset Sardis, but they've just had such a wild season. I mean, at points it's just been the bottom of the barrel, and somehow or another they've managed to get to the second round. But it's going to run out here as Wilson is a good, solid team, good defensively. Look for them to bottle up Tyrone Dupree and Wilson to get the win in this one. Looking on, we got Dora going in Sachs. Dora has had a kind of a one of those comeback years as well. They've last few years struggled at points, and now they've had a really good year this year, but it's going to run out. Sachs is way too talented, and look for them to roll in this one. Looking on to 3A, you got Gordo going into Mobile Christian. A lot of people didn't expect this matchup in the second round. They were thinking possibly in the finals of the South. But Mobile Christian went to a rough stretch. I believe lost two in a row. Ended up losing three overall. Uh, look for Gordo to win this game. Mobile Christian, I mean, they're a talented team. I don't really know what happened. Just underachieved, I guess. And but I do like Gordo to go ahead and get the win in a close one. Looking on, we got Clark County going to Vicksburg. Clark County is actually one of those teams that knocked off Mobile Christian to go ahead of them, and look for them to go into Vicksburg and get the win as well. Looking on American Christian, they come out of that Gordo region, and they finish second to Gordo, and they go into Montgomery Academy, and I believe they get a win in that one. Looking on, you got Hillcrest Evergreen going into Oakman. Hillcrest Evergreen's a really good team. Oakman, they pulled it upset last week. We called that one. Uh, and this is a really hard pick, but I'm going to have to go with Hillcrest Evergreen to go ahead and win it in a close one. You looking on to our neck of the woods here. We got Sylvania going into West Morgan. I've looked at this West Morgan team. They really throw the football well and run the ball well, but I would have to kind of lean as to basically call them a passing team. This Maurice Gray kid is just he's lightning in a bottle. I mean, you throw it up, get it within 2 or 3 feet of him, he's gonna catch it every time. So look for that to be a huge, huge factor. Also, we learned that the Rams lost their number one running back, Shavers, who's had a great year. So that's really going to cripple them, I think, offensively. They're going to have to throw the ball. Spears has done a great job, but it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually throw the ball knowing it's coming. They've lived off play action, but this time around it's going to be a little different. You're going to be able to key in on it, and it's going to be tough. But I like West Morgan to avenge their loss last year. They lost to Sylvania in the first round, 42-6. So look for them to get crunk up and get by the Rams this time around. Looking on, we got Randolph County going into Fultondale. This is a game that could be in the third round as well. Uh, these are two really talented teams. Fultondale's undefeated. Randolph County's only got the one loss to Piedmont. Jason Jones, great player. If he has just a phenomenal game, it being at home, they might could pull it off. But I think uh, Randolph County's just a little too much for them, and wins it in a close one. Looking on, we got Colbert Heights going into Weaver. Colbert Heights has had a great year, but this Weaver team is really talented. When they put it together like they did late against Plainview last week, they really can play. But can they do it consistently? That's the biggest thing with them. So many mistakes. If they can play a clean game, this could be a blowout. But you just really don't know about them. But I think talent's going to rule the night, and I'm going to go with Weaver to get the win in that one. Looking on, you got Pennington going into Piedmont. Uh, Pennington is running into a hornet's nest, if you ask me, because Piedmont was disappointed last week. They only beat Geraldine 26-6. Uh, Many people have scored lots of points on Geraldine this season, and obviously Piedmont is one of those teams that scores lots of points on everybody. So it's kind of one of those bizarro things. Look for them to be sharp tonight and blow Pennington off the field. Looking on, we got into 2A, you got Luverne going into Aliceville. This is a great matchup. This could be a third rounder as well. Luverne, great year, but and I know the record doesn't really show it, but Aliceville is a really good team, and I like them to go ahead and sneak by Luverne tonight. Looking on, we got Leroy going into Ayrton. This Ayrton team's got a great record, but Leroy really impressed me last week. They dominated a good solid Elba team, 48-20, and I believe they're going to ride that momentum as they go on the road and get a win. Looking on, we got Thorsby going into Goshen. Goshen is a team that nobody really looks at, but I'm telling you, they're really talented. Uh, and just kind of in a quiet way. They win, they don't blow you out, they don't just wow you or anything like that, but they get it done. I believe their only loss was to Elba. I believe they turned the ball over maybe 5 or 6 times. A lot of mistakes in that game. They still only lost by 6 points. So goes to show you if they played clean, it could have been a blowout. Thorsby, great year, kind of out of nowhere, but I like Goshen to get the win in that one. Abbeville, kind of a revival for them. They haven't been really good since, I believe, 2001, 2002. So, they've really exciting year for them. But St. Luke's is in uncharted territory. I mean, possibly the greatest year they've ever had. And look for them to continue that as well against Abbeville and possibly blowout fashion. Looking on, we got Celigent going into Reeltown. Reeltown, as always, they know the playoffs well. They're one of those teams that's there every year. Look for Celigent, though. They've kind of come out of nowhere. I believe this is their best year since roughly 2004, thereabouts. Look for them to go into Reeltown and make a statement and get a win. Really athletic team that nobody really talks about or knows about. But just check them out. That could be a big blowout possible. Looking on, you got Lafayette, you got Robert Houston rolling into Long Ridgeway Stadium field. Uh, you got your defending champions. This game last year was really competitive until Houston got hurt. You had Whitlow last year. Of course, obviously you don't have him this year, and I believe that'll be a huge factor. Houston kind of gashed them pretty good last year running the ball because they were so worried about Whitlow. This time around, they can kind of key on him. Uh, you know, the game against Lynette kind of comes to mind. I believe he was 19 for 44 yards. They bottled him up nicely. So look for Benesfield to have a good little scheme, key in on him, and bottle them up. Looking on, we got as well in that matchup their defense. It's kind of a and one of those deals where on paper they look great, but in reality, it's a little bit smoke and mirrors. They cause a lot of turnovers. They get a lot of picks. Obviously, Fife doesn't throw the football, so it's kind of hard to get an interception when you don't throw it. Fife doesn't turn the ball over, so they're going to have to do it on merit, and I just don't see it happening. It could be close for a little while, but you know, Fife's probably going to roll in this one. Looking on, we got Lamar County going into Ramburn. Ramburn, uh, pulled the upset last week. But Lamar County is a little different animal. It wouldn't shock me if Ramburn won this game, but I think they're just a little bit too much talent for them, and Lamar County wins it in a close one. Looking on, you got Sandrock going into Lynette. This has the recipe for a blowout. This has the recipe for a potential shutout, as Sandrock really is not very dynamic offensively. Um, they just kind of grind it out as best they can. And going up against a really good defense like Lynette is going to be a recipe for disaster. And I like Lynette to win it in blowout fashion, as I said, possibly with the shutout. Looking on to 1A, you got Isabella going into Wadley. Isabella, great year, but I think Wadley is just too much, as they are undefeated and will continue to be undefeated. Looking on Marengo going into Georgiana. Marengo played really well last week, kind of shocked some people, as we've said. We picked them in the upset, and they got it done. But Georgiana, different animal. I think they're going to be a little too much for them and get by them. Looking on, we got Talladega County Central going into Maplesville. I wouldn't want to be Talladega County Central. They're kind of in the same boat Pennington is, as Maplesville struggled a little bit early in that game last week. Look for them to be angry and sharp and blow Talladega County off the field. Looking on, we got Brantley going in. Sweetwater. Brantley is kind of one of those iffy teams. They've got a great record, but they're a little shaky. And I think Sweetwater, solid as a rock, will expose that and get the win. Looking on, you got Addison going into Hackleburg. Hackleburg, once again, one of those kind of teams. They've got that great record, but that region is a little soft. Addison, they've shown that they really can play some ball, as I believe came out of that region number 2, losing only to Lynn, who is undefeated. Um, so it's kind of one of those games. It's a little iffy back and forth. Can Addison go on the road and get the win? I believe they can. I think it's going to be close, but I think they will sneak out of there with a W. Looking on, you got South Lamar going into Cedar Bluff. Cedar Bluff coming off a scare last week to a really gutsy, gritty Waterloo team, 33-28. But I wouldn't call South Lamar gutsy or gritty. You got Buster Griffin. This kid is lightning in a bottle. They better be ready to keep tabs on him at all times, or he's going to have a monster game against this mediocre Cedar Bluff defense. They just had a lot of trouble with tackling people out of the screens and things like that last week. And they better get that shirt up, or it could be a very long night for Coach McWhorter and his Tigers. Uh, and for that fact, I just don't think Cedar Bluff has enough defense to stop South Lamar. But this is going to be a shootout. If you like points, they're going to blow the scoreboard up, I do believe. Because South Lamar kind of in that same boat. They're sort of similar to the Lafayette defense. They're looking to turn you over. That's their thing. They're not going to stop you. They're just looking to make plays. And they got some guys that can make those plays. And I believe they'll make just enough to get kind of, I'm not going to say shut down Cedar Bluff, but they'll do enough to cause enough havoc to get by them in the game. Looking on, we got Cherokee going into Lynn. Cherokee is going to get exposed. Lynn is a really good team, and Cherokee is a little iffy. And I do like Lynn to get the win in that one. Last year, we got Spring Garden going into Pickens County. Pickens County looking to get back to the finals, and Spring Garden is just going to be a little bump on the road to doing that. Spring Garden, really young team, overachieving team, and this moment's going to be a little too big for them. And I like Pickens County to possibly win this thing in blowout fashion. Uh, that pretty much wraps it up. As I said last week, we've kind of had just a crazy week. It's going to be interesting to see if that continues this week. But as I said, I believe we're going to see, the status quo kind of come back to Matthew. Powerhouses are probably going to get some blowout wins and kind of set the universe right, so to speak. But that's going to wrap us up. We're going to enjoy this week 2. Everybody go out, try to stay warm, enjoy it. Uh, and we'll be back with you next week. I'm Artie Decker for PSN. Goodbye and good luck to all.